Congratulations, you have completed the Introduction to Notebooks lab, our lab for the first week. And so now that you're done with the assignment, we're going to need to do the post lab for this weekend. So whenever we're interested in doing anything for the lab, all of our lab information is going to be in the week folder. So I'm in the main Blackboard page, week 1, Introduction to Notebooks. You'll note, again, the due dates are always going to be at the top. So post lab is going to be Sunday. That's February 8th, right before midnight. And it's going to be answering questions about what you did in the lab, analyzing your results, kind of thinking about it. So all the information for our lab is always going to run through the lab handout. So we want to open that up. All the information you've used, objectives, disposal, the background information, the actual procedure, all that stuff's in there. And if you go all the way to the very bottom, we have that post-lab assignment. We have post-lab questions we're going to answer, and we have a conclusion we're going to write. So there's going to be 2 parts to our post-lab here. For this week, there's a decent amount of overlap, where the questions is going to be kind of the stuff you're talking about in the questions, you're also going to talk about in the conclusion. That's not every week. Most weeks they're going to be a little more divorced, where you're kind of analyzing or kind of thinking about results in the post lab, and then you're summarizing things in the conclusion. But for this week, I want to kind of guide you. Here's some questions. Here's what you want to think about. And then you're kind of having that in the conclusion as well. So this is kind of the prompt for the post lab. Again, there's 2 parts: the post lab, the questions, and then the conclusion. So that's the prompt for the post lab. You actually answer it back on Blackboard. So if you scroll down, you'll note the pre-lab questions, the notebook is still available. I encourage you to look at the notebook, look at the page of the data your group collected on Wednesday to answer those questions, right? When you're answering these questions, based on your observations, use experimental observations, you should be referencing whatever your group wrote down in the notebook. Right? Those are the observations that we should be referencing. That's what we want to be talking about. So I would encourage you to look at the notebook, see what information was in there, and make sure that that collected information is informs what you answer for your post lab. So for actually submitting the post lab, it's down here, this bottom assignment, again, due on Sunday, the 8th. If we open that up, I have a generic prompt here for it. This is just kind of saying, look at the lab handout. I did a lab handout for the questions. All the post labs will have that same thing. To actually submit, you go here, create journal entry. So within Blackboard, this kind of assignment is called a journal. It's like wikis we had before. It's the same idea. It's just an individual assignment. So only you are going to do the journal. Only you can see your journal. Everyone's going to turn in their own post lab. You do have to give it a title. Blackboard is really into that. And then you have the text editor. You can, question 1, up, question 2, no, right? Whatever you're answering the questions, you're kind of writing out your responses. Blackboard, again, won't save your work. So you can also have this option to attach if you want to handwrite your work, or you want to put it into like a Word document or a PDF and upload that. You can get something off your computer. This would be upload something else you've already uploaded to Blackboard. So since you probably haven't uploaded much, this isn't as useful. This is more useful for me to do. So you do that, and then we post entry. And again, it's not going to save this work. If I clicked back or I canceled all this work I've done is not going to be saved. So I click post entry, and voila, it's there. And if you realize, oh no, I only answered the questions, I need to write a conclusion too. You can't edit posts in a journal. Unfortunately, that's part of the functionality. But what you can do is you can just create another entry. So we could call it, post lab again, do whatever you want to do. And then, lab is fun. Whatever. You write out your conclusion. And then you can go ahead and post this. If you want to avoid any of this, you can save entry as draft. But I want to note, if you save an entry as a draft, I cannot view it. You have to post it to make it visible to me. And I am totally fine with you having multiple posts here, right? If you have, questions, if you do like 1 question, 2 question, conclusion, or you write it and then realize, whoops, I want to change it. If you just make a new post, I have these timestamps. When I go to grade it, I just see all of the posts. It's very easier for me to parse out what kind of things you're looking at or what you were trying to imply. And I'm always going to look at whatever you posted last. So, this is what I'm going to assume is like your post. Now, if they're different things, I'm going to find it all. But if you had said like lab is not fun, and then 2 minutes later, lab is fun, that's, what I'm going to look at as like your actual post for, say, the conclusion part or whatever. So that's when you're actually filling out the conclusion. The other thing I want to note is if you come over here, you'll note there's this little table. This is how you can open the rubric, which will give you some guidance on how to move through how to complete the assignment, what I'm looking for. So let's take a look at the rubric. So here is the rubric that we can see, and you'll note there's the post-lab questions and then some of the parts I'm looking for in the conclusion. How I write my rubrics is I give a description of basically what I would expect from a complete response, and all the kind of parts that I would be looking for each response for each question, and then the different parts of the post-lab. I have to put in percentages on Blackboard in the rubric. It says percentages out of 15, so it's not quite working, is why you see these kind of numbers after the decimal. When I grade it, I'll kind of round the numbers manually and make sure. And also they just kind of cancel. They all add up to the right number, so it'll all work out in the end. So don't worry too much about the kind of zany fractions or decimals that are here. I do encourage you to look at the rubric. I'm giving a description of what I'm expecting, like in the post-lab questions, and especially in the conclusion. Just kind of a generic response, generic prompt in the generic prompt in the handout, but yeah, I'm looking for explicitly an objective, experimental results, the conclusion part, the error analysis, and a professional product when you're writing that conclusion. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, again, it's due Sunday, February 8th. Congrats again on finishing the lab, and have fun with the post lab, and enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next week for week 2. Bye-bye.